What's going on, guys? Adam again, back with Atomic Garage, and today guys, we are going to do a real world review of my 1995 BMW 318ti coming up in this video. So guys, as the intro just stated, today we're going to be reviewing my 1995 BMW 318ti. And I wanted to do the review on this car now, while it was still pretty much stock for the most part, for the exception of a few things that we'll get into later. With this car, I've had since January, so I've had for almost a year, coming up soon. And this car has had its ups and downs, mainly because of poor ownership before me. But when I look at this car, I'm going to be reviewing it from the standpoint that it's in a running and driving and no previous issues from here. So for us to get started, let's start by driving it. Safety first though. You know, driving this BMW 318ti is a whole lot different from what I have driven before. For one, this is not only a different import vehicle. I'm used to American V8s, but this car is not bad to drive at all. And driving a E36, this TI in particular, is a completely different experience, not because of driving characteristics, but rather the fact that with this car, you don't see many on the road. So I wanted to do this review, guys, while this car was still in a pretty much basically stock configuration, for the exception of a few things. Those few things would be the 18-inch rims that are on the car, which I will be trying to swap out for something different. And to go along with that, I've got some bigger brakes in the front from a 2001 BMW 330ci. But what I wanted to talk about with this BMW is actually, this is a very good car. But this is a very good car in a different way. You have to make sure that you put this car in the box that it belongs in, as it were. You want to look at this car as an economy car. Now for me, this is a completely different circumstance that I am quite honestly not used to at all, because every vehicle that I have personally owned has been quite honestly awful on gas. And I say that because my wife's 2011 Jeep Grand Cherokee Hemi 4-wheel drive overland, that gets 13 miles to the gallon. My 03 Chevy Silverado, that gets 13 miles to the gallon. When I had my 85 Ford F-150 with the inline 6, that got 11 miles to the gallon. My 68 F100 rather, not 150, with the 302 on it, it got 0 miles to the gallon because I never got it to run. So every vehicle that I've had, for a small exception of a Toyota Tercel, has been bad on gas. Now, with coming to know how bad gas is, I'm used to it, as it were now. It's something that I'm fine with. But driving this car gives me a different perspective, as it were. It now makes me want to drive the car even more. It makes me enjoy passing gas stations. And the thing about it is, I drive the daylights out of this car. Right now, I'm taking it pretty smooth, pretty conservative with it. But any other time, I am taking the RPMs all the way up to 5, maybe 6 grand sometimes, and I'm just wide open, especially through first, second, and some of third gear. And that's where the fun happens at. And this car is not a particularly fast car by any means of the imagination, but it actually handles not too bad. It doesn't tend to wallop when you come around a corner where you're just trying to muscle it on through. You actually get a smoother ride to it. Now, make no mistake, even though it does handle quite nicely, you're not going to be winning any races as of it. Even though this 1.8 liter M42, because this is a 95, it's an OBD1, it still doesn't have that oomph or that BMW girth or growl that you would want that would come in a 325i or 328. Certainly this 318, this 1.8 liter, lacks in the power department. But what it lacks in the power department, again, like I said, it makes up in miles per gallon, hands down, no question asked. Another thing that I find special about this car is the fact that there's not many of them on the road. You don't see many of them. If you go to your local import car show or car meet or anything like that, you won't run across this car too much. In fact, you probably won't find another one at all. You will find way more E30s. You'll find actually a few 328s, other E36s, especially the M3s, which I feel have been completely ran into the ground. And you'll find all the other BMWs, but this TI, the TI is the one that is the unicorn. So it's actually something to enjoy. Not only that, the space that this car has is actually really good. These back seats have way more room than I could have ever imagined back seats in a two-door compact car to actually have. So while I pick up my kids from school sometimes in this vehicle, I can throw a bunch of junk in the back and still have plenty of space in the very back because I still carry my tools around. That's trust issues. I'm a mechanic. You can't judge me for that. So the looks of this car is very polarizing, as it were. Some people love the look of the short butt. There's other people that hate that same very look. And you know, I am in between. I'm in the middle of that. Because there's some days I say, man, it's not really doing it for me. But then there's other days that it just works. It just looks great. It looks different. And for some reason, it puts me in the mind of Ford, how they had the Escort and they had the Cosworth with the big wing on it, which I am a huge fan of the big wing. Big wing gang all day long. So the looks can be very polarizing, but I've seen several people modify these cars and they look quite amazing altogether. So I've talked about so many pluses with this car, but unfortunately there are a few minuses. And this may depend from owner to owner, what kind of BMW that you have, but BMW, and especially within this year, it can be very finicky, as it were. It can have quirks and problems and things that will make you go crazy. At times, you'll feel like this BMW is being very temperamental. And you have to fight with all your might not to burn it to the ground, because there's a lot of things that goes wrong with these cars, and it requires a lot of work to replace it. Whether it is replacing the starter on this car. In a starter in a car that's a 95, it's basically a consumable item. And you have to either pull both intakes off of the car to replace it, or you have to go ahead and lower the transmission, both of which are actually quite a handful of a job to accomplish, mainly because the wiring on this car is atrocious. Another thing that can be a bit weird on the car is the fact that it's a 5-speed, and there's nothing at all wrong with the 5-speed, but not one of those gears is overdrive. So in any other manual vehicle, you're used to going into that final gear and you're expecting your RPMs to drop way low because that's your overdrive gear. That's your engine is working less, your transmission and your gearing is doing most of the work. You're thinking you're good from that point. But when you drive down the road and let's say you're at 3,500 RPM and you shift over into 5th gear, your RPM drops down to 3,000 RPMs. That's not much of a drop. I guess it is, but it's not much of a drop. And at first, it can be very unnerving or unsettling at the fact that, well, how in the world am I supposed to get good gas mileage if I'm still turning $3,000 at 70 miles an hour, 75 miles an hour? But somehow, BMW has turned that potential negative actually into a positive. So overall, guys, I would say this BMW is a wonderful car if you place it for what it is. If you buy this car and you're expecting a 325 or a 328, you're going to be sadly mistaken. But if you look at this car for what it is, as an economy car that has a lot of utilitarian features about it, you will grow to actually love and enjoy this car just as I have. Well, there you go, guys. There you have it. Just a small review of my 1995 BMW 318ti, and I do truly enjoy this car. I didn't go in depth with this car too much because there are so many other more well-produced videos that talks more in depth about it and different things about it. But I covered, for the most part, the consumer things, the things that will first jump out or you would think about when you look at this car. If you'd like to see my journey with this car and the ups and the downs and the triumphant returns that I've made in it, by all means, click on my channel name, and under there are a bunch of videos, long and short, on what I have done to this car from the very beginning. And if you're new, please consider subscribing. If you like the video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you do subscribe, hit that bell icon so that way you can be informed of any time I drop a new video. But that's it for me, guys. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.